Pack your bags and set your compass because today we're navigating the exciting world of Canadian tourism. On this episode of Geographical Thinking, we're joined by Joe Amati, Senior Executive Director of Global Market and Brand Intelligence for Destination Canada. Together, we'll explore how maps and data are transforming the way we see Canada's tourism industry. Welcome back to Geographical Thinking. I'm Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore ideas, stories, and conversations through the lens of geography. Joining me today is Joe Amati, Senior Executive Director of Global Market and Brand Intelligence for Destination Canada. Thank you for joining me today, Joe, and welcome to Geographical Thinking.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, and how has the season been? I know fall into winter. Is it busy for tourism? Is it planning for the next season?
It's a bit of everything. So, definitely a busy season. We're really happy to see the tourism numbers as we continue our recovery post pandemic. And of course, as always, we are always planning for the future. What does 2025 look like? But looking all the way ahead to 2030, as we just recently released our 2030 strategy. How do we build for the next few years for Canadian tourism?
Oh, wow, that is definitely some longer range planning. I'm barely thinking of what am I doing next year for vacation. So I'm wondering, with your work with Destination Canada, what does that include? Looking at your website, there seems to be many facets to the organization's work.
Yeah, definitely many facets, but ultimately it's all grounded in tourism. We know that tourism is a cornerstone of Canada's economy. We know that it enriches communities by creating jobs, it supports local businesses. It helps to really celebrate our nation's cultural tapestry, the diversity across Canada, including and especially Indigenous cultures. So, Destination Canada, such as a Crown Corporation, our mandate and aspiration is to enhance the wealth and well being of Canadians through tourism. We're a national tourism organization, and in the end, we're responsible for promoting Canada as a premier four-season travel destination. Part of our mission is to influence supply and to build demand, but all for the benefit of local communities.
What does that approach look like? Is it using data to understand potential markets, advertising broadly across the world, or something else?
We do this through research, we do this through alignment with public and private sectors, and we market Canada nationally and we market it abroad. Our approach is to focus on markets where Canada's tourism brand can lead and will yield the highest return on investment. Basically, where can we have the biggest impact? We'll use research to drive a lot of evidence based marketing, and we focus on 9 international markets. So the US and Mexico, the UK, France, and Germany, Australia, China, South Korea, and Japan. That's from a leisure side. We also have a business events team, and their work is to really leverage in depth global market analyses, and they'll target international clusters, which are aligned with Canada's priority economic sectors. They will target them to bring business events to Canada, which is another major tourism and revenue driver. We have another part called destination development, and they're focused on ensuring we can sustain a premier four-season tourism economy that will be truly regenerative in nature. This will support the economy, support the environment.
Can you tell me about Destination Canada's work in the destination development space?
Now, competition is everywhere, of course. People can literally go anywhere in the world in competition with us. So we make sure that we always remain globally competitive. And to do so, we know that we have to offer experiences which meet the needs of travelers. And these are always changing, these are always evolving. So, how do we meet the needs of travelers, the needs of the marketplace, while increasing our capacity to meet demand? So, as such, our destination development team is really twofold. They're focused on driving near term success, but they're also building the future through long term transformational growth. We want to make sure we're attracting and influencing strategic investments in tourism. This will include private sector as well as all levels of government. And this really is to help yield smart growth for tourism that's really aligned with our community's broader goals.
Okay, and that's a lot for one organization to tackle. I guess looking for all seasons as well as all time, looking into the future, a lot of things to keep track of. I'm wondering, how does data play a part in this? I know going over the website that I noticed something called the Canadian Tourism Data Collective. Can you tell me more about this?
More than happy to, Michelle. Thank you. So, data underpins all of this. we do not make decisions without looking at the data. And the Canadian Tourism Data Collective is a mechanism through which we do that. What it is, high level, it's a new platform that we've recently launched. It's secure, it's centralized, it's accessible, and it's called the Canadian Tourism Data Collective, as it really is a two-way street for sharing and accessing tourism data. We built this in collaboration with Statistics Canada and with ISED, which is the Department of Innovation, Science, and Economic Development. And it's a platform that's supported by a cutting edge Google Cloud technology stack. But it's really more than just a data platform. We see it and envision it to really be a catalyst for transforming Canada's tourism industry. It really is a first of its time and a first of its kind in Canada. Its core purpose is to really empower the Canadian tourism sector with very comprehensive data, with insights that will help to really inform decision making, strategic growth, collaboration, and innovation across our industry. What it is a suite of AI enabled data products which will provide collective intelligence for the sector, and that collective is important. We've grouped these products into three broad buckets: industry intelligence, destination intelligence, and then traveler intelligence. And through these different AI enabled products, we're able to offer predictive forecasting, spend analyses, customer segmentation, traveler knowledge, demand, need, as well as many other features. It fits with our aspiration, again, I mentioned earlier, which our aspiration for Destination Canada around generating wealth and well-being for all of Canada and enriching the lives of our guests. And the Canadian Tourism Data Collective is built to help support and enable that. Our strategy, recently launched, mentioned it earlier, our 2030 strategy, really does aim to propel Canada back into the top 7 global tourism destinations, which will help drive sustainable growth, help our sector reach its full potential. And one of the key pillars of that strategy is collective intelligence. And that collective intelligence pillar speaks to the importance of having readily available sector analyses and data on both demand side and the supply side, and to give us a sense of how our sector is performing. What's the pulse of the sector day to day? That is the collective intelligence of our industry. So wrapping it all up then, the data collective is built to fully support and inform and deliver on that collective intelligence pillar, which is critical to delivering on our 2030 strategy.
Okay, it's interesting to hear that collaborative take on data. I know that's so big within various levels of government, having open data sites working together. I'm wondering, how is this data collective then providing tourism sector stakeholders with access to data and industry insights? More importantly, why is that important?
I'll start with the last part, Michelle. The why is really at the heart of this. And it starts with the pandemic, as a lot of things do. And the pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to tourism, to the tourism sector. Tourism sector was among the first that was hit when the pandemic hit. It was among the hardest hit, and it's among the last to recover. It also really revealed the limitations of our existing tourism data system. So, at Destination Canada, when the pandemic hit, we ourselves were struggling to find the right data to follow and to listen to help guide us through the pandemic and to help kick off our recovery. And we knew that if we at Destination Canada were having this struggle, many of our partners were as well in both the private and public sector. So in responding to this challenge, never letting a good crisis go to waste and trying to really learn what can we do about it, we use this opportunity to craft a vision for the future where all tourism industry decisions are underpinned by comprehensive, reliable, and accessible data. So from there, the idea of the data collective was born. And it was born to support a robust network of stakeholders, which would include national, would include regional tourism organizations, policymakers, industry associations, and almost 250,000 tourism businesses. We envision the Canadian Tourism Data Collective to offer this really holistic and consistent view of the landscape, which would benefit the entire ecosystem. We know ultimately, again, part of our way of behaving is that better data fuels better decisions, and that longer term, we can enhance the competitiveness and resiliency of our tourism sector by leveraging data to help make our internal and external stakeholders smarter marketers, more successful destination developers, more efficient operators, and ultimately more accountable to Canadians and to their stakeholders.
Thinking about the different options that exist for standing up open data sites, what platform does the Data Collective use, and what were some of the key considerations?
So, central then to the Data Collective is our data exchange platform, which is powered by Google. And this platform facilitates our secure data access and sharing. We built a very modern data warehouse. It's equipped with enterprise grade AI services. We manage over 175 harmonized data sets, 8.9 billion with a B, rows of data. And something we're very proud of, and that's very important to this, is all this data covers more than 5,000 regions across Canada. By covering that many regions, we're able to provide data for many small and traditionally underrepresented communities within traditional data sets. That was incredibly important to this. So the collective, it's really centralizing and democratizing access to this data in a timely way, in a reliable way, and in those communities from coast to coast to coast. It's providing our internal and external stakeholders with these tools and insights they need to navigate what is an incredibly and ever evolving, complex, and competitive landscape. And I want to reinforce that this is more than just a data repository. We didn't just build this thing, dump in a bunch of data sets, and set it loose on the world. It really is, it's a suite of AI-enabled data products that will provide this collective intelligence for the sector. We built the products and organized the collective in ways to answer the most important and impactful questions of the tourism industry. So very much taking a user-centric approach to how we built this. A couple of the products just to mention very briefly. One product is called our Global Traveler Research Program, and this provides information on traveler interest, traveler demand, traveler values, and what they think about Canada across those 9 international markets I mentioned earlier, plus among Canadians, so among our domestic travelers. Another product is our segmentation product, which will be profiling helping us understand our 7 target inbound segments, which will help us make us smarter and give us more of a one-to-one relationship with our target travelers. Another product is, we cleverly call it LASER, which stands for Lodging Aligned Spend Report. And this, as the name would suggest, is a report on what people are actually spending when they're traveling to and around Canada. And what are they spending from each of those different markets? So it gives us an incredible level of depth of intelligence from what people want to who they are to what are they doing and what are they spending while they're here. Michelle, if I can, I just want to brag for a little bit on behalf of the incredibly brilliant team that put this together. We just launched our data collective in May, and since then we've seen over 10,000 unique active users. We have over 50 subscribed industry partners, and we have an impressive 84% product engagement rate. And that 84%, for context, when we went back to one of our partners who helped actually build the collective for this, the benchmark they use for such platforms is 62%. So we are 22% higher than that benchmark, which we're incredibly proud of. One more brag, if you'll indulge me, again, on behalf of the brilliant team at Destination Canada. We've actually won 3 data and AI innovation awards with this collective. Let me just read them out for you here. So we've won the 2024 Skift Idea Award in the Data Provider Problem Solver category. We've won the 2024 Data IQ AI Award for Best Use of AI for Nonprofit or Non-Commercial. And we just recently were the winners of the 2024 City Nation Place Award in the Best Use of Data. So suffice to say, we're very proud of the Canadian Tourism Data Collective, very proud of what we've built, how it's responding to our need for collective intelligence as an industry, and the impact we're starting to see it having on the industry.
Yeah, that sounds like phenomenal reach and engagement already. I know hearing the 62% as an average benchmark, yeah, that's a really great engagement number. Hearing that you have 84% truly is impressive, and hearing how much data and the tools that you have behind this to power those insights is very inspiring. I know even hearing the use of AI to help with some of that, it's interesting to hear how that's being used and how we were using it to help enable further insight. Very cool. And I look forward to seeing and hearing more about it as things progress and what comes next. But I am wondering, with all of this data, with all of these processes and stakeholders engaging, how does Destination Canada collaborate with other organizations within Canada to gather and share tourism data?
Collaboration is so incredibly important to the data collective. That word collective, collaboration, there's a reason we chose the name of it. And we built it to be a collaborative platform. I mentioned earlier some of the founding partners, Statistics Canada, Innovation, Science, Economic Development Canada. Beyond them, we also collaborate with a range of public and private sector organizations who all contribute to the data collective. We work with provincial, territorial, city destination marketing organizations. We work with the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada, with the Tourism Industry Association of Canada, with Tourism HR Canada. So we work and collaborate with all of these partners as we built up the Canadian Tourism Data Collective to make sure the data that's needed is there and that it's being used and leveraged in the appropriate way. Happy to say we also just recently announced a partnership with the Tourism Industry Association of Ontario, who will partner with us to really help us continue to scale up the data collective and make sure that the needs of associations are well represented within the data collective. And this is important to us. We need to maintain strong and trusted relationships with all of our partners and all our data providers so that we can make sure we're delivering the most accurate and comprehensive data possible. This is especially important when we're looking to surface data from small and underrepresented communities and voices.
With the introduction of the data collective, have you seen any improvement in data sharing and collaboration across the sector?
So, because we built a two-way street for sharing and accessing tourism data, we're really starting to see the collective fostering really open collaboration across the tourism ecosystem. And the model that we built, the platform we built, it was built the way we talk about it to really encourage that free flow of information and ideas because it'll really help uncover new insights and new innovations. It will help us uncover what new data sources and analytic capabilities might we think about incorporating and leveraging within the data collective. And this is important to make sure that the data collective is relevant not just now, but for the longer term.
Okay, and hearing about all of this data in the collective, I'm always interested in where does that go next? How are we using it? And I know, having again looked at your website once or twice, that there's an app called Tourismscapes. Can you talk a little bit more about this and why that app was created?
Tourismscapes is one of my favorite apps, Michelle, and I'm really glad that you've had a chance to look at it. We encourage you to keep looking at it, keep going to play with the data, as I personally learn something new about one of our 5,000 plus communities every time I look at it. But before I get too ahead of myself, Tourismscapes itself, then, to answer your question, we built the data platform by not just sitting around ourselves and throwing darts at a board on what data to include, but we engaged in a series of design thinking sessions, both internally and with our partners, to really understand where is there data and insights and knowledge needed and where might there be gaps. And one of our design thinking sessions revealed there was a significant gap in regional and community led insights, that really granular level of data, which is so crucial for destination development strategies, for investment attraction initiatives, and for just understanding and managing local tourism communities. So Tourismscapes itself then is a response to that, is a way to address and fill that gap. And it's an interactive mapping tool. And what it does, one of the many things it does, is it visualizes the scale and geographic distribution of the tourism sector within Canada. It provides market profiles for thousands of communities. So over 5,000 communities across Canada have a Tourismscapes profile. So you as a user can search and profile a community's tourism sector. There'll be a series of indicators in there, which I'll be happy to talk to you about later on if you like. And from those indicators and the insights, you can start to make strategic planning decisions. You can highlight the value of tourism in your local economy. If you're an investor, you can very quickly understand the tourism health of a community and which markets you might want to invest in and how you can compare across markets. It really is the first of its kind. This is what everyone tells us. We don't know of any other free product that provides the comprehensive market profile from a tourism lens. And probably a good time mentioning actually that Tourismscapes, like everything else in the Canadian Tourism Data Collective, is available in both English and French.
And I think those are very important points there with the both one, it being a free platform that people can engage in. I know having a GIS background, I always gravitate towards, does someone have a map? Great. Let me see what we're doing with this. Let me explore the data. Um, and it's really cool how granular you can get with that data. As you mentioned, I've gone into communities that like I've traveled to. What does that kind of impact have? Or even the community that I live in. I'm surrounded by wineries and it's a popular tourist destination. What kind of impact does that have? And hearing that it's also available in English and French, hearing that we have that accessibility of mind with a language forward approach is really exciting. Now, onto the other side of things, I'm wondering, why was this product created more? I know we covered the what is it, but was it purpose built for helping with those insights? Was it to help consolidate data? What was the why there?
Yeah, that's great. There's many different data sources you need to fully and truly profile a community. And going back to the example I mentioned earlier around during the pandemic, us challenged to find the data we were looking for, we built this therefore to be able to consolidate all those different data points, all those breadcrumbs you need to be able to profile a community. So we built the Tourismscapes product as that consolidator. It's consolidating all these fragmented sources into a product that is fully unified, it's user friendly. We made it as easy to navigate, as intuitive as possible. It'll save anyone who wants to profile a community a ton of resources and time and money. So they don't have to search for, they don't have to purchase data, they don't have to analyze data. They can simply go in, find their community, and the data they need is given to them. And it provides insights into, like I said, 5,000 plus communities. But especially what we're very proud of is some of these very remote locations previously didn't have data accessible to them. And the Tourismscapes does make data accessible to them. They can easily go in, search, and find the same level of depth and data as the larger, more traditionally serviced and very data rich, if you will, communities. So we're very proud of that. So ultimately, then it was built to consolidate, bring all these data breadcrumbs together so that users can really highlight the value of tourism in their community.
Okay, and hearing those high level impacts of smaller, even remote communities getting able to have further access and insight to things happening in their community. I'm wondering if anybody hasn't had a chance to look yet. Can you explain how tourism's might help their community profile, the tourism sector?
Sure. So it can be used in many ways. I'll just touch on a few right now. You can use it to really find and filter communities based on a series of attributes. Is it considered a small, medium, large size tourism destination? Where in Canada is it? So you can use that filtering mechanism to filter down to communities of interest. Once you're a community, then you'll really be able to gain a much deeper understanding of that community's tourism sector by examining some key indicators like seasonality of tourism within that community, the tourism employment landscape, the accommodation supply, the mix of businesses, including tourism businesses. You can also explore communities' assets within locations such as arts and cultural facilities, parks, indigenous tourism businesses, and investments.
Okay. I'm always a big fan of indicators and benchmarks whenever they come up. So I'm wondering, what are those indicators that Tourismscapes uses to profile and analyze a community's tourism sector?
Yeah, sure. We'll go to a bit more depth then. Um, the indicators that we use really fall into a range of key data themes. Again, we were very choiceful and deliberate in how we built this data product and all data products to make sure it was taking a user focused lens. So rather than giving an output of data, we bucketed the data from different sources into themes, thinking the way an end user would be processing and inboarding and ingesting the data. So one big indicator, for example, falls into the theme of the economic importance of tourism, and this would be some indicators such as total tourism employment, how many people within a community are actually employed in tourism, which gives you a sense of the health of the community for supporting the tourism industry. What's the share of employment for tourism employees relative to non-tourism employees within that community. How many total tourism businesses are there in that community, and how many other businesses, non-tourism, which again is an indicator of the economic health and importance that tourism has to that community. What does the hotel room, the accommodation landscape look like? How many rooms are there? And what's their service level? Are they economy, mid-scale, luxury, something in between? So those sort of collectively will give you a nice overall view of the economic importance of tourism. I mentioned earlier seasonality. So when are tourists visiting, and what does the spend profile look like throughout the season? Are you a heavily seasonal business where there's big spikes at certain parts? Or is it sort of a trickle throughout the year where it's a bit more resilient and building out into non-peak seasons? What tourism assets are within the community? I mentioned that earlier as well. So what do you have from arts and cultural, parks, indigenous investments? What does the actual landscape look like for tourism? What is there actually for potential tourists to go? Spoke about seasonality, which again is such an important one. Cannot never overestimate the importance of that one. Those are indicators, I would say, that help you profile individual communities. Now I want to talk about actually the even more powerful is once you now pull back and you can start using these indicators and these profiles across multiple communities, which starts to give you a sense of things like the regional diversity of tourism across certain, or the diversity of tourism across certain regions. So we'll be able to see how do large urban centers like Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, how does their tourism landscape differ from maybe medium or small destinations like Banff or Whistler or Niagara Falls? And how does that further differ from maybe smaller and rural areas like Prince Albert National Park? So that gives you a good sense across the Canadian landscape of the diversity of tourism. You can also get a sense of population growth and infrastructure needs. One of the metrics that we provide is just profiling the community through population, through geographic size, and through changes in those. So there again, when you compare across multiple regions across Canada, which regions are growing rapidly, which could then suggest there might be a need for investments to make sure you are building what is needed to sustain tourism within those communities, which ones perhaps aren't growing as quickly, there's slower growth or no growth, in which case, what's the revitalization opportunity for tourism within that space to maybe bring tourism back or to bring populaces back. Another metric and comparison you can do is we provide metrics very important to us on Indigenous participation. So what's the concentration of Indigenous employment in the tourism sector across destinations, whereby comparing again across urban versus rural, across large or smaller, you can start to get a sense of Indigenous tourism workforce participation and where might there be opportunities for inclusive growth strategies.
Okay, and that really does provide, I think, a holistic picture, going back to what you said before, that Destination Canada takes that holistic approach with data, with looking at the tourism industry. I think that range of indicators there really does help to paint a picture of this is a big picture situation. We're not looking at these places as a silo or individual entities. Everything is connected. But I'm wondering, on the feedback and user acceptance side of things, have you received any feedback from users on the application? And if so, has it influenced any plans for improvements or future developments? I know things are always moving forward.
If you'll indulge me, I'll happily answer by bragging again a little bit
Please do.
on behalf of the team. So I mentioned a bit earlier just some of the metrics: the 84% engagement rate, the 10,000 plus accesses to the data collective, and aside from that, is we actively and continually monitor and manage the data collective. We've presented Tourismscapes, the data collective and Tourismscapes specifically to our industry. We've presented it beyond the industry. Through there, we're maintaining a consistent and constant feedback loop. We're always engaging our stakeholders in what do they think, what do they like, is what we are building meeting their needs. This is such valuable input because it will shape how we continue to involve the sort of backbone of the data collective, but also our product roadmap. We want to make sure we're always innovating. We're delivering solutions that are aligned with what we need as Destination Canada, of course, but critically with what our collective partners, with what the industry will need based on their evolving requirements. It's been only a short time since launch, as I said, just a few months. We're already hearing, we've received a lot of positive individual use cases, and we're hearing a lot of themes emerging on how the data collective and Tourismscapes is being used. A lot of the case studies are really focused on telling deeper stories about the economic impact of tourism to a specific community. Some of our partners are using the data collective and Tourismscapes to examine comparative data, to support conversations with their municipal leaders by showing how do they do versus how other communities doing, what are the social and economic drivers to their community, and what role does tourism play in that, by being able to show comparative data that it is an important driver. Other users are using Tourismscape specifically to identify potential specific opportunities for investments. Rural communities, it can never overemphasize how important this is to those communities. We're hearing a lot of feedback from many of our rural partners. One that stands out specifically, I can't name where it came from, but they had 3 development opportunities on their horizon within a large rural area, and they didn't really know which one they wanted to lean into. They used Tourismscapes profiles of the different regions they were considering, and by using the data, the comparative data across those different regions from Tourismscapes, they were able to make a decision and inform their investment. So these are some of the real on the ground applications of data. I'll mention one more specific use case, and this one we do have permission to share. It comes from the Southwestern Ontario Tourism Corporation, really good partners of ours and really power users of the data collective. The problem they had is they were seeking to measure the prevalence of tourism in some of the smaller regions within Southwestern Ontario. Before Tourismscapes was launched, they just didn't have this information. So they used this information in 2 critical ways that they shared with us. First, in a very practical way, is they want to conduct a resident sentiment survey. They used the information from Tourismscapes based on profiling different communities to make sure the resident sentiment survey, where they were investing in finding respondents to that survey, was representative of the communities based on the profiles that were provided through Tourismscapes. So there's a very real, tangible example. A second one is a few of the destination marketing organizations within Southwestern Ontario. They were analyzing the potential to implement an MAT, a municipal accommodation tax. Here again, they used Tourismscape profiles of each of their different regions to give them snapshots of the communities and use that to help tell the story of the benefit of the municipal accommodations tax to boosting those communities. So there again, we've seen some high-level examples around informing investment decisions, informing different strategies, to a few very practical and tangible ones about informing how they conduct surveys and implementation of very specific economic products.
And that sounds like really insightful already. I'm wondering, are there any future plans for expanding or enhancing Tourismscapes further? Any plans for other mapping or applications?
Absolutely. We are never ones to rest on our laurels. We're always looking to continue to evolve and build out the data collective and Tourismscapes to make sure it meets the needs of Destination Canada and also, and most critically, our partners. Again, that notion of collective intelligence as a critical pillar. Intelligence continues to evolve, and therefore our products and solutions must continue to evolve with them. So we're always looking to add new features, new functionality, new tools to the data collective. And for Tourismscape specifically, yes, we do see it as an evolving product. Right now, we see it as providing really foundational information. And the information is based on the indicators I've talked about. Those were selected based on or through industry consultations and based on which data was readily available. But what's next for that? So one key enhancement we're looking at is we want to integrate an even more comprehensive tourism asset inventory. And this will really help us and our users to pinpoint which communities have natural assets. What do they include? How do we gain deeper insights into business dynamics within that community? This could include looking at what's the size of businesses, what types of businesses are there? Are they arts and culture? Are they outdoor? Are they nature-based? Are they sports and entertainment? By providing this, then we see users being able to really identify more market gaps and what emerging opportunities might exist. We're also looking at incorporating even more data beyond assets to include things like air connectivity and visitor yield. Can we get to a point where we're now providing average spend per visitor? Beyond that, we want to dig even further into some advanced analytics, including some capabilities like assessing regional carrying capacity, measuring ROI, return on investment. These as well will further inform conversations and give us more deeper and actionable insights. One critical function I want to be able to speak to is we're really planning to integrate more generative AI driven tools. How do we use those to help users navigate the very complex tourism investment landscape? How do we use these to make the platform even more intuitive and more powerful so those planning and decisions can be data driven, more easily data driven? And critically to mention again, this product, tourism product, like the data collective overall, this does continue to come as a collaborative exchange of data between Destination Canada, between our partners, as we identify gaps and we seek opportunities to bring in data to fill those gaps.
Okay, and continuing on the future thoughts train here, I'm wondering, are there any future trends in tourism that you're really excited about, or how is Destination Canada preparing for future changes?
We're always looking to the future. As we spoke about a bit earlier, is we are looking all the way to 2030 and beyond, and our decisions being made today are to continue us on our transformative growth path towards 2030. One thing we are especially excited about is probably no surprise here, no conversation today can happen without the mention of artificial intelligence or AI. So we're very excited about AI, not just for the Canadian Tourism Data Collective, but beyond that. So a lot of the work leading up to our 2030 strategy is really underpinned by we recognize the power and the possibility that artificial intelligence provides to the tourism industry. We recognize the power that generative AI, specifically and large language models, will have on really fundamentally changing how we use and how we generate and use intelligence in the sector. We believe that we're well positioned to leverage artificial intelligence through the data collective. We already future proofed it by building in artificial intelligence into how it operates and working on building in how it will be used going into the future. But really, beyond that, we're working with a lot of our partners across Canadian tourism to think about how do we deploy AI to reimagine go-to-market strategies? How do we use it to improve the traveler experience end to end? How do we use it to really redefine the success in our sector, to set new standards for the industry? These will be so critical back to that competitive landscape. We need to be able to lean into this and leverage it to make sure that we are keeping Canada as a top competitor on the global stage. Let me speak a bit about, if I can, just how we're using AI at Destination Canada itself.
Yeah.
It's we're really using it in some very tactical way to really streamline a lot of operations to increase and raise our productivity. So this is automating routine tasks, but also for analyzing data to analyze data more quickly and smarter and more smartly to make strategic decisions. We're using it as well to help personalize marketing and content at scale. We know that generative AI, it's really rapidly changing how people work, how they're sourcing information, how they're using it, how they're going to make purchases now and in the future, and this includes travel. We know that the travel industry is particularly poised for disruption by generative AI, especially in areas such as marketing, customer service, planning and booking, experience delivery. This disruption will really accelerate as AI continues to pick up, as consumers embrace it, as businesses embrace it. So we need to embrace it ourselves. And by embracing the power of AI, it's really going to help spur this innovation across the entire spectrum of the tourism experience. And this really goes beyond crafting personalized travel itineraries, but rather it's going to be reshaping interactions through things like intelligent automation and customer service, through dynamic pricing, through hyper-targeted marketing. This could be real-time assistance while traveling. It could be crafting marketing content that speaks directly to your individual preferences as a traveler. Whether it's pre-trip, in-trip, post-trip, it's really going to be accelerated through AI. We're also in the process of continuing to integrate generative AI into the data collective. How do we use Gen AI to power search and usefulness inquiries through the data collective? And then I think the last example I want to talk about, this is one I'm especially excited about, is we're exploring the use of GPTs to reflect the voice of our traveler. How do we feed AI with our new and soon to be launched segmentation program? So I mentioned this earlier. This is our program. It classifies potential travelers from our inbound international markets into 7 key segments based on extensive survey research, based on industry collaboration. And the idea is that we want to create AI personas for each of our target traveler segments. We can query them and they will speak to us. They will respond back with the voice of the traveler. We can ask them whatever we want about tourism, about travel to Canada. We can show them marketing copy. We can present strategy and see how it responds as our target traveler. So, in short, it's really going to be an AI powered way to connect directly with our target traveler.
Yeah, and I think the use of AI coming into the tourism industry is something that's being well embraced. I know back in October, Germany launched their first AI influencer, Emma. That was a pretty big deal. I think seeing that there's the possibility to bring AI into the story role of how we're approaching data and travelers is such a cool use case for it. And I think it's maybe something that could have a broader impact. You can look at it for urban planning. You can look at that for software development. We already look at like who is the target user, who is the customer for the story. Hearing about this, it just makes me think who else could be using this? How else can we further develop it? It's such a cool idea, and I can't wait to see where it goes next. But knowing that we are coming to the end of our conversation, if people are looking for more information or want to use the data and tools that we've talked about today, where should they start?
One stop shop. So it's an easy answer, Michelle. One stop shop going to the Canadian Tourism Data Collective website, which is tourismdatacollective.ca. Tourism Data Collective, it's all one word, .ca. And that is the Tourism Data Collective itself, which anyone listening to this can go on right now and access and pull that exact data we spoke about. You can go to Tourismscapes and profile your community. I would love to know what you see in your community and kind of what data points really stand out. To really help out with the interpretation as well, as I say, one stop shop is we've hosted 2 industry webinars on the Tourism Data Collective website. You'll find recordings of those 2 webinars, one in English, one in French. We also have a knowledge center that we make available through the Data Collective because we really want to make sure we're giving as many resources available as possible, training resources, support. So those are all available through the knowledge center there. Each data product also has its own sort of like a learn more webpage, which will give you insights into features, functionalities, how to use it, how to interpret it, where's the data coming from. That's all sourced on there. And then finally, some of the more complex tools will also have user guides, will have white papers, will have quick tips to assist users as they navigate the platform.
Fantastic. And we'll include all of that in our show notes as well so people can check out everything. I know there's already things we've talked about today that I'm looking into diving into as well. Thank you so much for joining me today, Joe. It's been great chatting with you and hearing about such great and innovative work that you're doing for tourism in Canada, but also I think may have some broader reaches into the larger technical sector as well. Thank you so much for coming on to share.
Michelle, thank you very much for having me. I always love talking about the Canadian Tourism Data Collective, about Tourismscapes, about the role of AI, and I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Fantastic. And that is a wrap on our tour of Canada's tourism landscape. A huge thank you to Joe Amati from Destination Canada for guiding us through the power of data and mapping in the tourism sector. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into how geography is shaping the way we explore our beautiful country. If you're looking for more information about the technical side of GIS, check out the Spatial Report podcast where Mark and Maggie dive into the latest and greatest in the world of GIS. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep thinking geographically.